Okay, so I'm just going to see if I can add the lovely Kristin. Have a little chat about shame, which seems like, a really weird conversation to have, but actually it's been pivotal in understanding my own body. And it'll be really great to talk to Kristin about how she works with it with her clients, but also how she works with it herself. So to excuse my hair, because I've been out on a big practice walk today for a big 26 miler, and I feel like a mess. So we're just going to wait for Kristin to come on, and I will see what we can have a chat about. She's invited, so we'll just wait. So I hope you all had a great Sunday. She's not able to join. Let's see if we can. Let's do that. We might be on it now. I think she might be here. Hey!
Oh, there I am. Hello. I kept trying to join, but it kept rejecting me for some
know,
reason.
it does it sometimes. It keeps kind of rolling it over, and you're like, I'm never going to get on here. How am I going to connect?
Yeah. I was like, I'm here.
Honestly, I'm there and I'm like, where is everybody? But it's fine. I'm used to it now, so it's okay. It's really nice to see you.
Me too.
So we better get right into it, I think,
Right.
because there's no other real way to get into talking about shame other than talking about it, right? So I suppose I should ask you a little bit about, your own journey with it, what it's changed for you, and how it obviously you work with with it through with your clients now too.
Yeah. I'll keep it. Maybe we just have a chat, so I won't talk for 2 hours because that's normally what happens when I answer that question.
I'll keep an eye on the time.
I need to remind myself because I have an infinite tolerance for talking about shame. It's something I consistently have to remind myself. People don't. And there's a very little window of tolerance, very small window of tolerance for shame. So I kind of have had to, so that's the first answer to that question is I've
Yeah,
evolved to learn
absolutely.
don't overload the nervous system with shame. Um, yeah, how did I get into shame? This is always something I have to think about. There was never one big sort of
Mm.
um, awakening that thought this is calling me. It was sort of like the universe. I believe the universe kind of left me little clues over the past probably 2 decades, and but I'll sort of distill them until like the points that really smacked me upside the head. And you and I just recently chatted about this. One was back in like I think it was the early 2000s. Steve McQueen, the filmmaker Steve McQueen, did one of my all-time favorite films called Shame. And I won't go into I highly recommend anybody watch that if they want to understand shame. But for me, I walked out and I felt, not to sort of like big myself up, but I walked out and I thought, I think I might be the only person who understood that film. Like I was like,
Mm.
oh, I don't think anybody understood this. And everyone was like, oh, it's about addiction, it's about this pervert, it's about this sex addict. And I was like, no, the clue is in the title. And what's really masterful is that they don't mention the word shame once. The word
Yeah.
doesn't come up in the film, but yet it's the glaring title. But everybody couldn't piece it together. And I was like, and now, of course, now I understand that that's a phenomenon called meta shame, which is the shame of shame. And we all just were like, oh, it's about an addict. It's about this guy. And no.
Yeah.
Anyway, I won't go into that, but that was sort of like I put shame as not an emotion, but as an identity on my radar. But I didn't understand it, of course. And then I was sort of for several years, I was kind of in this on again, off again relationship with this guy, as every good story begins in that way. And I couldn't understand why it was going so well. And then he would just sabotage everything. And it took a good like 6, 7 years. And I don't know, I don't know what it was, but I just remember one day thinking, you are so full of shame. And that was not a word that was familiar to me. So I don't even know where that thought came from. But I saw it and I was like, oh my God. I was like, you're so ashamed of, actually, I shouldn't say he wasn't ashamed. He was full of shame because there is a difference.
Mm.
So that was kind of that, like, personalized it. So I suddenly felt like a victim of shame, which actually all of us are victims of shame in some way. And finally, when I was studying, so when I was becoming a therapist, I was trauma. I'm a trauma survivor myself. Trauma was like the only thing that I wanted to work with. I was like, that was it. I was studying everything that I possibly could about trauma. I was doing my qualifications. I was making sure I was trauma trained, not just trauma informed. So I start working with clients, um, intending to work through their trauma. They're intending to work through their trauma, and of course, they all were like showing this common denominator. And I was like, what is going on? There was just something there. And I was like, what is this? I was like, this isn't trauma. I'm like, this is not in any of the books I've read. And I kept putting it down to like this collapse. And I was like, oh, this is a freeze response that keeps appearing. I was like, oh, this freeze response that keeps coming up. But then I was like, but that's not a freeze response. Anyway, something happened. I don't even know how this came on my radar. I actually brought it. So I came across this book, the Bible, John Bradshaw, Healing the Shame That Binds You. Everybody should have this, especially if we are a professional working in wellness or mental health. I read the book and it was like, oh, that's it. Oh my God, it's shame that's appearing. So what I thought was kind of becoming what was a trauma practice actually started becoming a shame practice. And I do still work with trauma and shame, but actually it evolved how I work with trauma. And I don't just work with acute trauma, which is sort of the big T, the one-off, life-threatening experiences like many of us associate with trauma. I actually now work a lot with complex trauma, which is something I never even saw in the pipeline a million years ago, because complex trauma and shame go hand in hand. So that's abuse, that sort of long periods, for anyone who doesn't know, is like multiple situations that overload the nervous system over a long extended period of time. Sometimes they are big traumas. Sometimes they're not what society would call big traumas. And that just compounds the shame. So without going kind of too far down a rabbit hole, that's sort of what brought me to shame. I'm fairly sure there was a second part of your question, but I am talking a lot, so maybe I'll take a break for just a moment.
That's okay. It's really interesting because actually, I think that partly it's kind of like, what is that? It's this kind of hidden quality. And you're like, what is that? What is that? And in my own experience of it, I would call it inadequacy until someone said, I
Mm,
know we're talking about it as inadequacy, but actually that's shame. And I was lucky really
yeah,
to speak to someone where I went, oh my God.
yeah,
So
yeah,
weird. And I think once the light bulb goes off, yeah, it's quite a journey, really. It's quite a journey. But I actually watched that film the other day. Thank you for the recommendation. And it was, yeah, it's a pretty heavy film, but yeah, I think, I went down to do a 3-day workshop in London about shame,
mm,
and obviously dealing with my own shame, which is
yeah,
really counterintuitive, but also reading the book and stuff now. And it's been so interesting to explore and to go through. And obviously, the way that addictions come through, how a lot of diagnoses that are added on, a lot of things. But to me, what it would definitely done to me in my exploration through my autoimmune disease is this chronically
mm,
shut down, dysregulated nervous system,
yeah,
where you just been like, I can't do this, and actually, working with it and knowing it's there and knowing when it comes up now, it's like, oh, I'm feeling some shame. It's kind of,
yeah,
but it likes to hide, right? It likes to hide. It doesn't want to be
yeah.
seen.
Yeah, that's it. Shame hides. So actually, I'm just thinking, if people are listening are actually not that familiar with shame, it's probably worth backing up and just
Yeah,
identifying
it is.
what shame is and what shame is not, because you and I could talk for hours. And shame, fundamentally, um, shame is not an emotion. Ashamed is an emotion. Shame is an identity, and we call it the master emotion. And I'm going to come back to that hiding bit in just a second. But shame is fundamentally a core belief, often unconscious, that we are not enough. Notice I don't say good enough.
Mm.
We are not enough fundamentally as humans. There's something rotten about us. There's something flawed. There's something
It's just not right. There's something
just not right.
fundamentally. wrong. Yeah,
At
yeah,
our core, something is not right. But of course, we don't really say that. And often, sometimes it's a big clue if the word inadequate comes up, because it's a very common word. Inadequate, I'm not good enough, lots of words. What shame is not is guilt.
yeah,
And that's a really important distinction to make. Guilt, and there's a key difference here. Lots of people will describe it in different ways. Some people will say guilt is that we've done something wrong. Shame is that we are wrong. That is true. I also like to add in the bit that guilt you can atone for,
yeah,
and the soul knows you can atone for that. Shame, at its core, we cannot atone for because it's irreparable. That's what happens in the mind and the nervous system when shame is there. And when I work with people, a lot of my work is sort of what I call shame work. A little phrase that I came up with because I don't know what else to call it. That process is sort of understanding that it's not about it's never about changing somebody's mind that they are good enough. We're not doing affirmations or any of that nonsense. What I want to do is show people how the shame that they experience, one, is shame, not something else, and two, it's not theirs. Shame is always passed on to us. Shame is put on to us. None of us, if we have genuine shame, it means we are ashamed and we're experiencing an emotion which is temporary like any other, and we process that like any other emotion. Shame as a core identity is very different. Shame is the master emotion, and a master emotion means that we basically can't distill it. And as you know, working with people, if someone's like, oh, I feel really sad, we can always keep going. What's underneath that? What's underneath that? And we'll always land at one of two master emotions, either grief or shame.
yeah,
And we can't go any further. And one of the other reasons that shame is the master emotion is because it doesn't behave like other emotions. It's a shapeshifter. And so this shame hides. Shame is like this little demon. That's how I think of it. It does not, it's like allergic to light. You put a
yeah,
light on shame and it has an utter meltdown. I've seen bodies spasm. I've seen people act like they're possessed. I have seen, because they are that demon, suddenly when there's a light on it. And what do we do when we're feeling shame or embarrassed? What's the first thing we do?
yeah.
Or we avert our eyes, right? Or we become
The
small.
opening of the eyes, definitely
Yeah.
really notice that a lot. Is that kind of looking
Yeah.
away
And
and
eyes like this, right? Yeah. Or looking
mm,
down. Yeah. We
yeah,
can't, because shame hides and it cannot be seen. So the first thing we want to do very gently, and it's so important to do this gently, never to just call someone out and say, I think you're feeling shame. No way. You're never going to see that person again, and you're probably going to traumatize them, right? We want to
yes,
go around it. We want to sneak up on shame gently. Sometimes a lot of people might experience something that feels a bit like shame when that's happening. How does that word land? Watch how somebody's body reacts to that, right?
mm,
So that shame hides is, I think, like probably one of the most important things to say about shame that you just picked up on.
yeah, absolutely. It's like a slippery little sucker, as they say, isn't it?
It's
It kind
exactly
of,
what it is. Very slippery.
yeah, yeah,
Very,
yeah.
very.
So how do you, because obviously you're really, keen on content free as well. I know you work a
Yeah,
lot with
yeah,
content free, so do I with the eye movement. So it's really
yeah,
interesting to know how you kind of work with shame and, how that goes through your practice.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you said that. So first of all, and I know, with the eye movements, you do the same thing.
Mm,
For me, I can't speak for other people, but I can only speak for myself. I personally would only ever use somatic therapies to work with shame.
yeah.
I would never use anything if I wouldn't even approach shame if I wasn't engaging the body and the nervous system immediately,
Mhm.
because shame will overwhelm. Also, shame lives in the body. There's a whole subject called the physiology of shame,
Okay.
about how shame behaves in the body.
Yeah.
We've already touched on a few of those: the eyes, averted eye contact, the collapsed pose, and so forth. So whatever that is, it doesn't have to be big sweeping movements. That can be really small micro movements. That can be eye movements. We're working with how the body and the mind. Anyway, I could go on forever, but I primarily work with EFT tapping,
Yeah.
as you know, just simply because I've had the best luck with it, and I have seen it show incredible results. But it's certainly not the only. Um, and I should say, because it can rewire the brain, and
Mm.
therefore it can change how we're experiencing shame. Um, you asked me something about before that. Content free. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just to explain, content free means, just for anyone who doesn't know, it basically means, and there's You can work content free with certain therapeutic modalities. Tapping is certainly not the only one. You mentioned, the eye movements. You can. A lot of hypnotists or I just aged myself. Hypnotherapists.
I know what you meant. I know.
Hypnotists. A lot of hypnotherapists will go content free also. A lot of magicians will use that. I am a hypnotherapist, I should say. I don't mean any offense. I practice that too. Yeah, so anyway, content free means that we can treat an issue, or we can, however you want to phrase that, we can heal for it, we can recover, we can process it without actually the client divulging details. And that can go in a spectrum. Sometimes that is extreme as, I have an issue and I don't want to talk about it. Sometimes it's a traumatic memory coming up, and sometimes it's a certain detail you don't want to talk about. So you can work on a spectrum. I tend to work on the very wide. So if someone came to me and said, I'm not even talking about this, then and I'm not going to explain how we do content free therapy, but just it's important for people to know it's available. And these are the kind of things I'm sure you do too.
It's especially with shame, I think
Yeah.
it's a really nice way to approach it, because often, like you say, only that we need to sneak up on it, but actually it can sneak up on someone in a session like that and really be a tricky one to work with after that, or it like puts you completely into shutdown. I was quite lucky, I think, with the way my awareness came around it gentle enough that when it was like, I think that might be, I was kind of, I think, ready to accept actually what was going on. But it's been a really interesting thing to work through on a personal level. Definitely. And in the shifts and changes in the body. I mean, definitely working with things like Bowen therapy has helped me release some of the things there, and working on the IMT movements a little bit, and with hypnotherapy actually, it's kind of coming at it in all angles but in a gentle way, and when the body's ready. That's definitely worked for me in my own life. So
ready being the key word there. We as healers, whatever we're working with, we do not show somebody that there's shame. We can see it and we can guide. They will see it when they're ready, and we can sort of put the framework in place and open all the doors for them to see that, and we can invite them to consider it and how it feels. But just because somebody says I'm not ashamed and it's glaringly obvious, it's not our job to tell them they're ashamed.
That's what it is. And actually, I think it's really important to let someone come into their own awareness anyway in that gentle state, because otherwise it's a shocker and you're just going to really kind of shut people down. I suppose what I want to ask is, what has the difference in your life been? Because obviously you recommended some really great books to me, and I like being down with, Cowan. She's done this great course that she runs, and she's run it for ages actually. I would highly recommend it to anyone, especially her book, because there's a really embodied way and she guides you through it so gently, so therapeutically. How has it changed up your own life and also those of your clients? What have you seen the difference?
I could explain that in so many ways, and there's one word that just came clearly into my mind, so I guess that's what it is really. The word safe is coming up. And personally, I'm a safe person. I'm a safer therapist. I'm a safer healer. I'm a safer partner. I'm a safer friend. And when we can hold shame, when we can hold space for someone else's shame. So let me back up for just a moment, because part of this content-free therapy thing is I don't mean to say, I'm going to say something, I don't mean it to sound flippant or dismissive in any ways. I couldn't care less where your shame comes from. Of course I care. What I mean by that is I have zero judgment about whether you think you deserve your shame or not. So a lot of people will come in and they need to process something that they did or somebody else shamed them for. I get a lot of clients who have.
Yeah, come on, I've lost you. Come on, I've lost you, Stan. There we go.
I got a pop up because I'm talking with my hands too much. I keep getting this pop up saying something about hand gestures. Anyway, like for example, people have been shamed so much for affairs or not, addictions. That's a good one too. That they actually think that they are shameful. They bought into this story of I've done something shameful. And so a lot of them will need to process and heal, but they don't want to tell us. So content free allows them to sort of build up the comfort to enter it without having to tell that story. So that being able to work with shame in that way has made me a safer therapist. It means I can work with somebody. There are no obstacles. I am trying to remove as many obstacles from people simply feeling better as possible. People, I could be, people like anyone who knows me laughs at this. I could be sitting at a bar somewhere, and some random person will come up sitting next to me, and within 5 minutes, I know more about their shame story. And they're like, and the thing I keep hearing all the time from people is, I can't believe I'm telling you this. I don't even know you. Why am I telling you this? And I'm like, it's just because your spirit can pick your nervous system, whatever more resonates more, your spirit or your nervous system, can sense safe people.
Yeah.
And we do not expose our shame unless we feel safe. So that has personally, it has enriched. Going into that deep, dark underworld of shame has actually made my life so much full of just joy and community and really love and so much intimacy. I don't mean like sexual intimacy. I mean like really intimate, real, genuine intimacy, which is so incredibly meaningful to me. The way I've seen it in clients, I've seen it basically in a very similar way, except what I've seen is that suddenly they become safer parents, they're safer partners, they're safer managers, they're safer public servants, whatever, if their job is that way, they're safer healers themselves. I have a lot of clients who are healers in their own right. Suddenly they can have genuine partnership and genuine love, not just sort of performative or
absolutely. That's definitely the performative word really stands out for me. Is I'm not performing life anymore. I'm not pretending I'm somebody else. So I can actually be myself and be okay with myself.
They can be authentic. That's what I'm trying to say. Is suddenly authenticity opens up in a way that it was never available, because the only reason we're not authentic is because of shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So when we don't have shame to be triggered anymore, we can actually be authentic. It's safe to be authentic, and people trust authentic people for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And this authenticity word does get kind of bandied around quite a lot, but it is that, if you've carried shame for such a long time, you can't be who you are. It's too, you can't be authentic in any way. I was struggling to find the word, because it is actually, it's such a difficult thing to discuss, because it really is an embodied state. Which is hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I when I work with clients and we talk about authenticity, it's always linked with vulnerability, because and it all comes back to shame. And when we have shame, we can't be vulnerable, because everything is protecting us against shame, right? Because shame, when we're carrying shame, we're afraid of being shunned and rejected, because that's what shame is. And it's this kind of fear that we're going to be rejected from society. And there's lots of sort of very primitive connections to that, which makes us behave in certain ways when we feel shamed. And if we don't feel safe being shamed and experiencing shame, we can't possibly be vulnerable. And we all know, and this will probably hit hard for some people to hear, if we cannot be vulnerable, it's impossible for us to be authentic. And if we cannot be authentic, we are not safe people. Full stop. Full stop.
And I really think that film, that you posted, I'm so pleased you did, because I had a great Saturday night watching that, analysing every movement and stuff. But to really see that, and actually what happens to you when you're not a safe person.
For yourself or for others.
I think it's that attraction kind of thing again, isn't it? Is if you have shame, you will shame as well. So it's such a complex. I mean, nothing that we're going to cover in like a 20-minute Instagram live, but I really, really wanted to do this chat with you. I know I've been trying to do it for so long, but just this year just has been like boom, 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 all of these things going off, and it's been such an interesting journey. So I'll maybe just see if I can pop in the bottom of this the books that obviously you recommended that, the Bible of shame that you showed. Something
Yeah, my
else.
favorite.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
have
thank
others too.
you so much. Thank you so much for coming on, because it's not an easy, it's not like a light-hearted Instagram discussion
No.
about it. But I'm kind of not the most light-hearted. I'm pretty deep. So it was really, really fantastic to chat to you. I'm so pleased that you were able to come on, and I'll definitely be in touch. Please share any more films and stuff, because it's such a great.
Oh, so happy to. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the space to speak about it because they're few
Oh,
and far between, as you can
I
imagine.
know, that's it. Yeah, we'll maybe do another one. We'll like a catch up monthly on shame. That would be great. We'll pick a subject and go for it. That might be
Love that. Okay.
it.
Bye.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Kristin. Take care.
Bye bye.